Hi everyone, we are going to talk about how to read a progress and performance matrix. I've got one displayed on your screen for you. It's just a generic one so you can kind of see what it looks like if you've never seen one before. I want you to notice on the left side, it is comparing your previous STAR test to a recent assessment. So whatever assessment you've decided to pull data for. Another thing I want you to notice, while you do have buckets for meets and master's grade level, your buckets for does not meet and approaches are split. You have low did not meet, high did not meet, as well as low approaches and high approaches. Okay, so let's talk about the colors for this matrix and what those mean. The red boxes are going to show you who is not showing growth. My students who may be regressing, students that I may need to be pulling for interventions. We have blue boxes. Those are students that are plateauing. They're treading water, so they just need a little extra push. And then we have the green boxes. Those are our students we want to celebrate. They're showing growth, and it's fantastic. Okay, so let's get down to the nitty-gritty and what it means for each box. I'll go through a couple of examples. I won't go through every box, but I just want you to get comfortable reading the matrix. It's very similar to a coordinate plane in mathematics. So it's very important to always start at the bottom. So I'm starting with my students who were master's grade level last year. So in that master's grade level box on the left, it'll tell you the amount of students that were master's grade level last year. So in this example, I have 16 students who were master's grade level last year. This number that I have in the very right-hand box tells me how many students stayed masters on the assessment that I pulled data for. So for me, I've got 5 students who stayed masters. That's great. They're showing growth. They're earning us a point. But then I've got students who are falling back to meets, approaches, and I unfortunately have one in the did not meet. So those students I want to be concerned about. They're dropping. They're not getting us any points. And so I want to make note of specifically what group number those students fall into so I can identify them. So I want to go find groups 2, 3, and 4. And in a moment, I'll show you where to find those. Let's do another example. So I am moving from the bottom up on my matrix. We're looking at meets grade level. I have 18 students who were meets grade level last year on STAR. I've got one student who moved into the master's category. I've got one student who stayed meets. And again, green is good. They're growing. That's awesome. We need to celebrate those students. But then I have students who are falling. I've got 6 in the high approaches, 6 in the low approaches. But then I've got 4 in the did not meet grade level. So again, I need to go find out who those kiddos are. So I'm going to be looking at groups 7, 8, and 9. All right, we're going to do one more example, and then we're going to go into how do I find who those students are. So I've got 14 kiddos who last year on STAR performed at high approaches. I didn't have any move up to master's grade level on this assessment. I didn't have any move into the meets grade level either. If you do, that's great. They're showing growth. I have 3 who stayed high approaches. And remember, that's okay. It is totally not bad. They're just kind of treading water. They are plateauing. So what is that extra little push we need to give them to get to that meets grade level? And then I've got 4 that dropped to low approaches, 3 that dropped to high did not meet, and 4 that dropped to load did not meet. So again, I need to go figure out who those kids are, and we can identify them by the group numbers that they're in. So 13, 14, and 15. So with that in mind, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up a spreadsheet that I've made for my classes. So I have, it's just a local assessment template that I have filled out for my kiddos. And I am right now, if you look at these tabs at the bottom of your spreadsheet, I am on the all student growth table. I am looking at 8th grade math. It's a Unit 7 test. And so I'm going to scroll down and look at where my students are. So I actually don't have any students who were master's grade level last year. It happens, totally okay. So again, I started from the bottom. I'm going to move up. I'm going to look at my meets grade level. Now last year I had 6 students who were meets grade level. I have 2 of them that on this assessment have moved up to master's grade level, and that's group 5. I want to figure out who are those 2 students because I absolutely want to celebrate them for moving up a performance level. So in order to find those 2 students, I'm going to look for group 5. So that means in my spreadsheet, I'm going to come to this tab that says recent student data. Okay, and remember these spreadsheets are pretty hefty. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide some of these columns. Okay, so date taken I don't need. I'm the testing instructor. So I'm just going to keep testing section because that tells me the class periods. So I'm going to highlight these columns, right click, and then hide. All right, so again, we're looking for group 5, and I've already sorted this. So my group 5 are the first 2 that pop up. So I'm going to go look at these 2. So Nevaeh and Daniel, they're both in my 3rd period class. Okay, super random. But last year's star, they got, let's see here, a 74 and then a 65. They're hitting masters now. One thing I also want to point out to you is every student also has a growth goal, and it is all individualized for your students. So I want to go celebrate these 2 kiddos. They were meets last year on STAR on this recent assessment. They got masters. That's fantastic. So I'm going to go the next time I see Nevaeh and Daniel and let them know. Okay, so let's take a look. Let's go back to our growth table. I definitely still want to celebrate these 3 students who stayed meets grade level in group 6. But first I want to go and find who is this one student of mine who went from meets grade level last year, and on this assessment they hit low approaches. Okay, so they are in group 8. So I'm going to go back to my recent student data tab. And because I sorted this by group number, here's my group 8. So I'm going to look at Michaela. Michaela last year on STAR got an 83, which was meets. Okay. And I actually, you know what, I'm going to unhide some of these so I can find out what was the percent score on this recent test she took. So Michaela. So on this recent assessment, she got a 55. When we know she's capable of something better. So with Michaela, I want to have a goal setting conversation because her goal is to stay at least at an 83. So I'm going to sit down and have some conversations with Kayla and ask her what happened on that assessment. What do we need to do to improve? What interventions do I think she needs? Okay, a couple of other things that I want to point out to you that you may or may not think about looking at. But I've got some kiddos from my class who were, specifically low approaches last year, who have grown into the meets as well as the master's performance levels for this assessment. So again, I could go find them based upon those group numbers. Please don't forget to celebrate your students. But also, I actually want to go look at some of these low did not meet kiddos. While yes, even if they stay at did not meet and they got to high, it's still growth. But you know what? Let's also go check out some of these low to low kids. Let's see what those percentage changes were, because you never know, you may still see some growth there and they may just need an extra little push. So let's go take a look at group 33. So 33, here we go, down here at the bottom. Okay, so I did open up this column for the test that we just gave, the percent score, okay? And then you have their percent score from STAR last year. So for example, let's say last year's STAR, I've got John Anthony here. He got a 25% on this assessment he just took. He got a 27%. You know what? That's still growth. I'm going to celebrate him. But I'm going to make sure he knows that he needs to start shooting for at least a 36%. Because we want to get him into that next bucket, which would be a high did not meet. Same thing with Ronaldo. On last year's STAR, he got a 20%, but on this most recent assessment, he got a 27%. I know for some people that's not a whole lot, but for him, that's huge. I'm going to celebrate Ronaldo. But again, I've got to have conversations with my students of where I expect them to be from here on out. So I want to be very clear that you have got to talk to your students about this goal. Give those students their goal so they know what they're shooting for.
How can we help you with those who do not have a progress matrix? Grade 3 math and reading, for science and social studies. You can't use a progress matrix because we don't have that previous STAR. You can see that the progress matrix comes out blank. So what we have for you is the summary tab that will tell you which student group might need additional focus based on, does that student group have a higher or lower average than the others. And then also we have on the student list, we have their goal for the next level. For example, if they're currently at the master's level, there's no goal because they're already at the highest level when it comes to performance. If they're at the meets level, it's going to give you the goal for getting to master's. If they're at approaches, or even for third grade, if they are at low approaches, it will give you the goal to get to the high approaches bucket. These goals are to get to meets because I'm looking at a science test. But for math and reading grade 3, it will, or fourth and fifth graders who don't have previous STAR scores, it's going to tell you the goal to get to the next bucket. It will also tell you which students are almost to the next bucket, like their bubble. So these, for example, these 4 kids right here, they scored at the 80 percentage. And to get to the next bucket, they only need 3 points. So they're almost there. So that will give you some encouragement to share with those kids. Celebrate that they're at meets, because meets is where we want to be. But if they're at master, or to get masters, they just need 3 more points. That will give them hope. So it does that for every class and every group of students. It will tell you the goal to get to the next bucket. And if they're almost there, it will identify them with the bubble. So that's how you can use this information that is created with a progress matrix, even if you don't teach math and reading grade 4 through algebra and English 1 and English 2.
All right, so I want to thank you for joining us for how to read a progress and performance matrix. If you ever have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. We do have a team email. It is panda@neisd.net. Thanks so much.